here we are, 30 years later. Who would have imagined that in 1980 that a quiet, shy kid from Orange County would discover something that would forever change his life? And now, I want to share it with you. My journey in this thing called street dancing, how it all came to be. You will see how I got started, how I got my name, and how I met some key persons and some of my accomplishments. So sit back, relax, and take a ride on Coco's fantastic voyage. Okay, here we are at Buena Park High School in Buena Park, California. My old high school, class of 1982, and this is where it all started for me. So now I want to take you to the spot where my life would change forever. It's 1980, I'm a sophomore in high school, just finished up my gym class, and now it's time to go to my last class. So on my way to my last class, I was walking down this little path right here, and I was kind of just looking down at the ground. I was a quiet, shy kid, so I did that a lot. And I got to about right here, and I heard some music, and I looked over and I saw this guy doing some weird thing with his body. Something like this. And I was like, what was that? So I was like, I need to get a closer look at that. So I just kind of kept on walking, tried not to make it obvious that I was staring at him. So I walked over about right over here. There used to be a little planet right here, so I sat down right here and just kind of watched this guy, and I was like, that must be some new dance or something. So this new dance was called Poppin. And Poppin, in essence, was contracting your muscles to the beat of the music. Then there was locking, another street style. And locking consisted of wrist rolls, points, kicks, and splits, and some other type of movements. And thirdly, b-boying was a street style that came from back east in New York, and that consisted of top rock or up rock, footwork, and some other specialty movements. So those were the three styles that I was exposed to when I was younger. So that day, after what I just saw, I said to myself, man, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna try to practice that, whatever it was that he was doing. So I remember going home that day, ran home from the bus stop, threw my books on the couch, ran outside to my room in the garage, and I just tried to practice that move that I saw. So I did that for a while, but I didn't have any idea or technique. I didn't even really know what that dance was called. So, but the next year, I met this guy named Sid Gonzalez, and he was a dancer. And he was known for doing these, what he called box tutting. He used to do these little moves like that, bang, bang. And then he would do waves. So he was a pretty good dancer. So he kind of took me under his wing and taught me a little bit. And then he told me that his cousins were dancers, and they were all from Anaheim. I was like, oh, cool. So he said, I'll take you over there one day. I said, okay. So one day came and we went over there, and I remember going to an apartment complex there, and he introduced me to three of his cousins at that time. There's a guy named Dino, a guy named Bobby, may he rest in peace, and his brother Pete. And Pete was more of a locker, but he kind of did both popping and locking. So they kind of showed me what they can do, and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. So meeting Sid Gonzalez in high school was probably the first big turning point. We used to go to these parties, so I got invited to go to these skating rinks, and these were like our jams back in the day. We're here at this place that we used to come to back in the days. It used to be called Billy Barty's. It was a skating rink, and this is where we used to have jams all the time. Now, as you can see, it's a Goodwill store, and you can still see the structure, remnants left from the skating rink, but this was a place that we used to come. It was a teen spot. We used to come down here and just have a good time and dance.
Something about the music got into my pants. Something about the music, it got into my pants. Something about the music got into my pants.
So at that time, the fashion for poppers was a pair of baggies, a dress shirt, members only jackets, and of course the old Jerry curl, because everybody wanted to be like Michael Jackson back in those days. So we used to go to these jams, and we had classic music back then. Of course, Roger, Zapp. We had Cameo, Parliament Funkadelic. We had Africa Bambaataa. We had Tyrone Brunson, O'Brien, The Time, Prince, Michael Jackson. So we had a lot of good music to dance to back in those days. These jams that we used to go to, it was like a typical jam. They got a DJ there. They got ciphers all over the place, and my buddy Sid introduced me to even more of his cousins. There was like 10 of them, and all of them were poppers and lockers, and then later when b-boying came to LA, they turned into b-boys. So they decided to form a crew, and we were going to be called the Rockin' Lockers. And so we formed that group. I was invited to come be a part of the group, and some of the other cousins, they formed their own group, and they were called the Rockin' Wizards. So we were kind of like the two more popular groups back at that time. So a lot of people ask me, Coco, how did you get your street name? And I was like, okay, here's how it went down. I was practicing over at Pete's girlfriend's house in the garage, and as I was popping, doing my thing, somebody yelled out, hey, he's popping like Cocoa Puffs. And then somebody said, oh, it's Cocoa Pop, Cocoa Puffs, Cocoa this, Cocoa that. So we just decided Coco would be the easiest name to remember. So that's how I got my street name. So right after that, someone had told me, you know what, Coco, you got to go out to Long Beach and see some of those dancers out there. So I was like, time to go to Long Beach. Here we are in the city of Long Beach, California, and we're standing right in the spot that used to be Club Infinity, the hottest spot in the early 80s for under 21. And now it's a Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles breakfast house. So, go figure. But this was a spot I used to come to. Somebody told me you got to come check out these LA dancers, so came out to Long Beach. And when I got here, I parked right over there, okay? But that proved to be the wrong thing to do because your car got towed when you parked there. So anyway, okay, so I walk into this place, and as soon as I walked in, it was like, wow, this is popping heaven. Every song was some old school jam. So as the night went on, I was just kind of checking it out in a little circle form, and I was watching some of the poppers and had a little bit different style. I saw some bopping styles, and then all of a sudden I see the Spanish guy go out there, and from a distance all I could see was this explosive, pow, 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 pow. And I was like, I gotta get a closer look at this guy. So I kind of make my way through the crowd a little bit until I get, right in front. And when I saw this guy dancing, I couldn't believe it. I had never seen anybody hit that hard. I had never seen anybody wave the way this guy was waving. So I said, okay, I want to learn that style so that I can take it back to Orange County and practice. All right, we're back in Orange County after our visit to Long Beach, and we're here at the world famous Knott's Berry Farm. This was another place we used to come to when we were teenagers, because they had a little teen club in there called Cloud 9. So I remember one weekend I was there with my sister, and I noticed these three Asian guys walked in, and from the looks, I said, okay, these guys are not from Orange County, because they had on these really big baggies, sneakers, they had hoodies, and the one tall skinny guy had some writing on the back of his sweater, so I knew they weren't from Orange County. So I was checking them out, and a song came on, I remember, and I saw him start to move, and he started popping. I was like, he looks similar to what I saw in Long Beach. Not popping as hard, but he had that same style. So I decided, well, I'm going to show my stuff. So I danced, did my thing, my Orange County style, and so he kind of dug it, so we just started talking, and we became pretty good friends. His name is Charlie Beltran, and they're from Carson. So I said, aha, I knew you weren't from Orange County. And so we started hanging out, and then he said, I was telling him, the style you have, I noticed, it's similar to what I saw in Long Beach. I saw this Mexican guy dancing, and he hits really, really hard. He goes, oh, that sounds like you're talking about Papa Taco. I was like, Papa Taco? He goes, yeah, he's one of the best poppers out there right now. So I was like, okay, yeah, that's probably who it was. So he said, well, I got a buddy in my group you might know. His name is Boogaloo Shrimp. You ever heard of Boogaloo Shrimp? I was like, you mean that kid that dances with Lionel Richie and the All Night Long? He goes, yeah. I was like, oh yeah, I heard of him. So Taco and Shrimp were both dancing for them, for Lionel Richie. So then he tells me, one day, I'll bring him over to your house and we'll practice. And I was like, all right, cool. So the day came, called me up, said, hey, we're on our way. I got Shrimp in the car with me, so we're coming over.